Hello, folks. This is Joe Pal 6B0405WX here. We're going to be speedrunning Rockman for BCAS. BCAS owns. And this run has officially started. So we are now going to Pharaoh Man stage first because the reason why I go Pharaoh first because I'm not going to be as equipped as I thought, but I'm still going to be moving very, 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 very fast in order to keep up this pace. Although something was somewhat negligible, but even though I'm not going to be as equipped, I'm more going to using rush adapters to get through the stage very fast because I had to use the damage boost quite a lot because just mitigate some of that RNG. Even though Fairman stage is a pretty good stage, but even though it can be a little bit dangerous for that part because you don't want to get like too little health because you don't want to get too little health and you might want to end up getting bad RNG as usual. But luckily I decided to get through that stage completely because of all that, even though I'm getting all these Twitch notifications, but that's not the point. But anyways, moving on to the Pharaoh fight. Pharaoh is like giving me some providence there because luckily, I'm just keeping up my pace and doing what I need to do. And I basically ended up taking down Pharaoh Man just to mitigate some of that RNG. So, anyways, the time save I normally use is like a little bit of time save I use. Luckily, I saved up only 1 second from the previous part because the one time I did it off camera, and as you can tell what happened on Cossack 4, I ended up losing time, unfortunately. So now I'm going to Dustman next because the reason why I go Pharaoh first before Dust because just want to get the Pharaoh shot first before getting the strongest weapon, the Dust Crusher that I was about to get next. Those crushes in that one and that part is very, very, very treacherous. You just gotta move, you gotta mitigate some of that good RNG in order to get through that thing very, very, very fast. Luckily, I'm able to get through these stages very, very, very quick by doing all that air sliding part. Because they're gaining more speed. The more I gain speed, the more I can possibly save time. And that's how that works. That's how saving time actually works for a Dustman. So now we already made it to Dustman. So Dustman is weak to Pharaoh, but whenever Dustman tries to begin to suck you in, because we had to deal with the potential vacuum sucking you if Dustman does so. Luckily what I did to Dustman over there, I ended up beating Dustman very, very quickly by that Pharaoh shot, which that charged Pharaoh really hurts him a lot. So now we ended up getting Dustman's weapon, the Dust Crusher. Dust Crusher is one of the strongest weapon ever. One of the strongest weapon that you will ever see. You're going to see a lot of Dust Crusher usage. Dust Crusher is so good at this game. The reason why I use Dust Crusher a lot is because Dust Crusher is definitely a versatile weapon. Pharaoh is also useful. It's a very strong weapon. As well as Skull Barrier. Even though Skull Barrier does something very different, which you're about to see in the next one. And as I go through Brightman stage, because Brightman stage, there's a lot of spikes in the area. You got to be very careful. But the blocks that done the spike changes, the small spikes are not instant kill. They do a lot of damage. Right here at one. So now we're moving on to fight Brightman. As well as even if road-festing Brightman and all that, and luckily I was able to take care of Brightman right from the start. Just to mitigate that RNG as well. Even though there's no animation skips going on, because that's the reason why there's no animation skips. And of course, not only that we got the flash stopper, but the changes that they made. You see, of course, Brightman now holds Rush Marine. We're not going to see that, so... sorry, Rush Marine fans. Yeah, reset call 1-800-Marine fans. Sorry, we're not going to be having that today. So right now, I'm going to be doing Skullman. Skullman is my 4th Robo Master that I'm going. And Skullman stage where you had to go through a lot of enemies that you had to go through. Skullman stage is definitely one of the most perspective there. Definitely one of the most perspective stages that anyone will ever see. Definitely one of the most versatile things you will ever see. You have to be very careful going through this stage because there's a lot of spikes. And whenever you go after the beginning, you don't want to damage boost a lot because you don't want to damage boost through the spikes. If you air sliding was unsuccessful, then yeah, there's a high chance that you could take a death on that one. Now, for the Skullman fight, you're pretty much going to see me roll-festing Skullman throughout the fight. Yeah, by using Brightman's weapon. Brightman's weapon is nearly as busted as the original one. Luckily, I was able to take care of Skullman. Luckily, I was in the right track all along. I did lose a little bit, but I'm still on the right track. Just to take care of that RNG. So my 5th Robo Master I'm going to be going to was Drillman. In Drillman stage, you had to go through a lot of treacherous stuff there. There's a lot of enemies and spikes there. You need to use a lot of Dust Crusher usage, including Bright Stopper usage to freeze the enemies as well. But even if when you come to the switches part, because even though with that high speed and chance that you gotta flip on the switches properly, but with the high speed, there's a very high chance that you could overshoot yourself if you don't turn on the switches properly. I managed to skip the wire on Skullman stage, and I also skipped the balloon on Drillman stage as well, but you're going to see those two later on. As I'm heading to the Drillman fight. Drillman fight can be very manipulating. Drillman can be absolutely manipulating things. And you'll see me using Skull Barrier. The Skull Barrier is very changed. The Skull Barrier is actually going to be very similar to Star Crash from Mega Man 5. And I was able to take care of Drillman by getting some of that good RNG as well. Drill Bomb's not that special. But you're going to see that thing later on as I head on over to Dive Man stage. Dive Man stage, for all of you fans that are loving this song, this is going to sound familiar. Sing the words. Come on now, everybody should know it. So shout outs to Daytona for making this beautiful song. Even if this year's the creator of this, Sukikuro, who made that type of Daytona song from the 8-bit version. He's absolutely great at making soundtracks. Absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love this style. Luckily, I was able to stay alive from this. Able to stay alive so I don't die on that one. So now, on to the Dive Man fight. Dive Man is pretty much very crazy. Not that special, but he uses very high jumps and does the dive missile shooting when he's jumping that high. Luckily, he was able to take care of Dive Man very quickly by using his weakness, the Drill Bomb. So, in many other ways, Dive Missile is pretty much not that special. And plus, Dive Man holds Rush Jet as well. You're going to see Rush Jet later on. Yeah, you're going to see Rush Jet later on. That's what you're going to see. So, in many ways, excuse me, on Ringman stage, you have to make sure the RNG is basically good. Make sure your air sliding is well balanced before you get through that whopper. You got to air slide through that on top of that whopper so that way you won't get hit. Just to mitigate some of that RNG. Luckily, I was able to make that pretty good air sliding movements. I did some change-ups to the backup strats. I can use Rush Jet instead of Rush Coil, because using Rush Coil can be sometimes quite dangerous. Using Rush Coil can be quite a bit of a dangerous move, and you could possibly lose time if you don't get good RNG properly. Now with Ringman is practically crazy, not too familiar from his vanilla counterpart, except he uses a lot of high jumps. And of course, that dive missile pretty much annihilates Ringman. So now, we got the ring boomerang, not too very different, except it's still a very strong weapon that you could pretty much pierces through enemies and throw on the way. As long as I got Ringman's weapon, so Toadman is going to be my final Robot Master. In Toadman stage, you have to deal with some dangerous movements from these ones. There's a bunch of Skeleton Joes. Yeah, using Charge Buster Shot one-shots them as well, but using Ring Boomerang one-shots the Skeleton Joes as well. As we get past through these checkpoints, you do not want to take the risk on losing time on Jumpman stage, because it's a very dangerous stage and you don't want to take any unnecessary deaths on this stage. So yeah, that mid boss I got through, it one-shots the mid boss. So with Toadman has officially changed. When someone attacks Toadman, he has a very nasty, powerful counterattack. So it was an out-damage race between Toadman and CXP. And CXP was able to out-damage Toadman. Yeah, the only thing you noticed why Pharaoh Shot was so powerful against the Iskaroo mid-boss. So now we're going into the Cossack stages. This is where you can go to the secret area where you can get the wire and a balloon if you actually miss it the first time. But if you miss the secret area in that case, then you're not going to have the wire or the balloon for the rest of the game. This is your final chance to get the wire and the balloon. Luckily, I got both the wire and the balloon that I just did not get. And the reason why I got both the wire and the balloon, the reason why I did that is because so I can make Cossack 2 a little more easier for me to use balloon on that. But you're going to see that later on. So now, on to the Moth Royale boss fight. So Moth Royale has a hitbox on that because you just got to control your drill bombs perfectly so you don't get bad RNG from this stage. And as you notice, I almost lost time on this one, but luckily, I was lucky. I almost lost time. So we're going into the hardest stage ever in BCAS. Cossack 2 is going to be your Cossack 3 gimmicks. So in Cossack 2, you're just gonna have this is definitely a rush jet requirement, so you want to use rush jet, but don't even switch it out because without messing it up. If you mess it up and decide to switch it out when you're not there, there's a high chance that you will take a death on that stage during that time, unfortunately. But luckily I did not take any deaths on this one because got that good RNG. I also used the balloon to get through that. A little easier for that. After you get through this, now you got a high-speed auto-scroller. Yeah, since auto-scroller is high speed, it's going to make you go faster and faster. Since this game's the fastest. So now, what I'm going to be going into the next boss fight we're going to go to, where I call the iPhone machine. Instead of the square devil, instead of the square machine devil, we get the iPhone machine. Luckily, I got good RNG on the second part because the first one, it did not get good RNG, but the second part, I got good RNG. So, luckily, I was able to use the skull barrier on Cossack 2 to clean it out, because the iPhone machine is weak to the Skullman's weapon, which I use the skull barrier to clean it out. Now I'm starting my Cossack 3 assaults. By refilling some of the rush jet and skull ammo, you could probably have enough there, but without refilling it, you're not gonna have any skull ammo left for the Drillman refight, which you're about to see later on. Making all that movements there. I'm just coming in with some gutsy movements there. I am basically coming in with the gutsy movements. One time I did it without balloon. It was quite rough without balloon, but with balloon, makes my life easier. Now we're coming into the cockroach twins. The first cockroach is going to be weak to the ring boomerang. And the second cockroach is going to be weak to the dust. But luckily at the very end, I was able to get that wire kill on the cockroach twins. This is what you need to do at the end of the cut when the second cockroach is at 3 HP left. You got to get him with the wire kill as quickly as possible. That's why it's extremely important. And now I'm starting my assault on Cossack 4 while almost getting closer to the end of Cossack 4. Going through this stage very easily is what makes this game a lot more fun. Using all my current weaponry to get through everything because and luckily we got the Cossack catcher. He's not going to be doing any catching. This is where the wire shines. All you got to do is stand still and wire. Stand still and wire. Stand still and wire. Well, the good news is, after saving up more time than usual before, it went from bad RNG to very, very, very good RNG than the previous part. So you can tell what I did on Cossack 4 Since the one I did off camera, I unfortunately died on Cossack 4 while I was trying to air slide, which the air slide has the increased air slide speed ended up pushing me back a little and messed me up from the previous run off camera, as I unfortunately fell into a pit that time. That's why Cossack 4 is very, very, very dangerous. Yeah, if you want to go fast, yeah, make sure you not to overshoot yourself on Cossack 4, which is why that stage is really, really, really scary. Wari 1 is going to look familiar. Wari 1 is going to be a Mega Man 10 music, while Wari 2 is a Mega Man 7 music. So, Wari 1 boss fight. Wari 1 boss fight, where I call it the Metal Daddy. That's the reason why I call Metal Daddy the boss fight. It's a giant mitt. He can manipulate everything. Luckily, I used a Pharaoh shot to clean out Metal Daddy to take out. That's not the end of it as well. So, as long as I'm getting good RNGs, Wari 2, this is it. You gotta get a little bit of refills there. There's no refills on every single stage. And make sure your air sliding is on point, and make sure your weapon usage is very well balanced. Got some pretty good movements over on my side. My side has got some pretty good movements. As for this point onwards, I was over there zooming right now, because zooming everywhere. We're coming over to the next Wari boss fight, which should be coming up in just a few seconds, and there we go. Because onto the Wari 2 boss fight. Taco Trash is definitely one of the most difficult boss fight that you will ever have to deal with. So, luckily, the Taco Trash is weak to the best weapon of all, Dust Crusher, which takes care of, which definitely annihilates Taco Trash. Looking pretty good so far. Got there, beat it with no problem at all. So, Wari 3, this is the refights. Bro, I'm going to call this the Eddy of Profound Sadness. That's the reason why I call Eddy a Profound Sadness. But you really do not want to use Eddy, since all of my weapons I have were pretty good. But even though Rain Flush is still good, so luckily, we're going to our first Roller Master, which is Ringman. And then if my routings are correct, after Ringman, I go to Dive Man, which is going to be the next one. After Dive Man, I go to Skull, which is Skull Man. And after Skull is going to be Bright Man. After Bright Man is going to be Dust Man. Just wanted Dust Man to give me good RNG as usual. Look at how good these runners be. After Dustman, I go to Drill Man. After Drill Man is Ringman, and after Ringman is Pharaoh. That's besides the point. And we got some good movements so far. This game is going to go by pretty fast. After defeating Toadman, so now we're actually going to move on to a Pharaoh Last, where we actually got Pharaoh Man's weakness, the Rain Flush, which was Toadman's weapon. Just like the one from our Mega Man 4 hack. And there we go. Moving on to the wiring machine, where the first phase he's going to be weak to Pharaoh Man's weapon, and then the second phase he's going to be weak to Ring Man's weapon. Once that's done, we're moving on to the final wiry stage. And wiry machine is taken down. This is it, folks. Wiry 4 is now here. It's not all though, we can still get this going. Did some good control air sliding movements. And now we're facing against the wiry capsule. And of course, what is he weak to? Y'all guessed it right. It's the Dust Crusher. The strongest weapon of all. Time's going to be on the final hit of Wily. So we're going to come up and time. That's time over here. So that is a GG. And yes, that did save me 30 plus seconds off of my previous PB. My previous PB I had was a 26:37. Yeah, I believe it was a 26:37, which was last set about a few months ago, I believe it was. I believe it was like a few months ago. Right until now, I've now saved 30 plus seconds. 26:03 is a pretty good record. I am very happy with that PB. If I would have saved like over 11 more seconds or whatever, I would have had a 25x. That would have been a high-end 25. If I would have saved it up, I would have had a sub 26. I came really close. Yeah, I came really close. I'm like 3 seconds off of getting a sub 26. Yeah, I came really close so far. I almost got a sub 26, but I fell 3 seconds short from that. But it was pretty good. Rockman 4 BCAS is always the most fantastic run I've ever had. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this speedrun of Rockman 4 BCAS. Have a great night, y'all.